Oh, hey everyone, Dylan here, and welcome to all these Netflix reviews. That's right, we have everything on Raw now finally caught up, so if you want to check out an old Raw recording, I have that uploaded, but that's not the theme of this video. The theme of this video is the February 10th, 2025, aka last night's Monday Night Raw. Let's get right into it. The show starts off, they show off Nashville, Tennessee, and they show off the Brimstone Arena. And then they do the everybody arrives that has a match tonight thing, but I'm done like calling that out for future reviews. I'm just gonna jump into things. I'm just gonna say what arena we have, and then the first segment. All right. Tangent aside, Jey Uso starts off the show. He tries to say something to the cameraman, but honestly, it's so loud in the arena you can hear a single thing from him. I'm telling you, biases aside, I love Nashville and Tennessee shows for just how loud they are and usually how historic they are. As he's doing like the 15th round of yeeting, he gets on the announce table and the cameraman has it at like this awkward camera angle. I'm like, why are you doing that? Why don't you just show him yeeting and then show off the crowd? But it makes sense because Gunther ends up attacking him by pulling his leg and making him hit his back on the announce table, and then he starts picking him, like beating him up outside. Jey Uso gets a little bit of offense in it, but 90% of it's just Gunther. He takes off his shirt, throws him in the ring, chops him, power bombs him, and tells him not to do it, aka don't go after Gunther. As the refs pull him off, he puts up his hand, says he's done, and then shoves like one of them aside, and then power bumps Jey one more time, and then he walks to the back as he gets booed out of the building. As he's walking to the back, Jey ends up talking through pain. He's like, hey Gunther. I don't know what that voice was. That's definitely not Jey Uso. But anyway, he does that. And Gunther, as he's trying to get his words, Gunther berates him like, say, don't do it. Don't do it. I warn you. He says, I probably shouldn't do this, but you, me, see you at WrestleMania. It gets a huge pop. And then Gunther gets livid by that. He storms into the ring. As Gunther gets up on the apron, Jey gets up and beats him up. I think he even like ropes him on the apron, if I'm not mistaken. And then he dives onto everybody. Him and Gunther both are held back as we end the segment. Commentary wraps it up, and then they transition to last week's drama between JD, Rhea, and Io, and in this case, I mean Judgment Day's Liv and Raquel. They show a replay of that, which I won't spoil. If you want to hear about that, I have a review up, cheap plug here. But anyway, after all that, we go backstage to where Rhea is interviewed about last week. She says if Liv makes it to Mania, she'll deal with her then. As far as the top girl is concerned, aka Charlotte, she's wasting everyone's time trying to make herself relevant. Right beside her are Io and Dakota Kai. When she finishes her little interview, they pan out to that. Io says since she cost her match for WrestleMania, she's coming for her. And that's how we kind of end that. After that, we get Liv and Raquel coming to the ring for a match against Damage Control's Io Sky and Dakota Kai. I don't know what happened, but halfway through the match, Liv gets like busted open bad. It looks nasty. But long story short, bunch of sequence happens, and Io wins with an over-the-moon moonsault. Commentary talks about what happened to Sami Zayn last week and tells us that he is injured. One of those kayfabe entries. They list off a bunch of things he could have, and then they show a recap of what happened. After that, we get Bayley versus Lyra Valkeria for an Elimination Chamber qualifier match. Bayley ends up rolling her up in order to advance. At the end of the match, she hugs her and raises her arm, show her a sign of respect because this was like a dream match for Lyra, so it works out. Commentary then transitions to a package video for Penta. He talks through these flames, so basically it looks like he's like in a form of hell. Talks through these flames, how he has zero fear from cowards who attack him from behind, referring to what happened last week, and that Penta is coming for them, and then flames shoot up. They had a shot right before we went to the end, where flames shot up and made Penta like disappear in the fire. And that's what they should have ended it on. After that, Kaiser has an interview where he tries to tell Penta that he's coming for him until Pete Dunne comes in and he argues with him, saying he didn't come in last week to help. He just wants to beat up Penta and to stay out of his business. They end up talking back and forth, and I think Pete Dunne says next week he gets a match against Penta where he's going to beat him up, and that interests Kaiser to end that segment. They transition from like them talking to AJ walking to the ring, and after ad we get an interview from him where first they interrupt it with Lyra hanging out backstage with Alpha America, and they're like trying to encourage her, be like, hey, it's not that bad, you just it wasn't your night, it's okay, you're still the champ, that's all that matters. And then American Made, specifically Ivy in this case, runs her down, says that that's not how a fighting champion should do, they shouldn't lose their first match, and says that next week that she'll take that title from her. Lyra gives her some shit back and doesn't take it really. And then after that, they transition to AJ Styles. He has an interview where he talks about how much it meant him emotionally. He does like a segment, about how much it meant emotionally to him to be in this arena because Nashville is stomping grounds back in the TNA days, And 8 months ago, he was excited to come back to his stomping grounds, but then he got injured in ring. He talks about how he still feels like he's got some gas in the tank, so while he was injured, he looked himself in the mirror and realized that it's not his time yet. And he's excited to come back. He didn't say it like this, but basically he's got a fire lit underneath him. He says he's got a long to-do list as he kind of looks at the Mania sign, but they didn't time it right. So it just randomly shows a glance of the Mania sign. And he continues on saying that he wants to remind the whole locker room how he is the phenomenal AJ Styles. Dom with Carlito cuts him off, so I guess Judgment Day technically. Yeah, cuts him off. He tries to say something, Dom does, but it's the whole get booed all the way to the ring shtick. I think he, in the process of all that, tries to tell AJ that the Judgment Day runs Raw now, or something to that degree, but the crowd just tells him that he sucks the whole time, so you can't hear it. Oh, and he tells him that things have changed. I think maybe he calls him old-timer. I'm not sure. AJ Styles agrees that things have changed. And then he says, where's Rhea? And where's Dom? And where's Finn? He pokes fun at both of them and calls Dom Ray's punk-ass kid. They have a little brawl until Styles scares out Dom. I don't know why that's a tongue twister. And gives Carlito a phenomenal forearm to end that segment, standing tall. They replay the Jey beatdown from earlier in the show, and then they show a confirmed graphic for the match that's happening 2 months away at WrestleMania. I'm excited that they're having a match against each other. I figured that was the only logical outcome, but also, how in the hell are we going to keep interest on something for 2 months? That's 60 plus days. I read it up to 2 months, but they got to go through February, so there's essentially 80 days until WrestleMania. Again, give or take. How the hell are we going to keep interest that long? Jackie Redmond's then in the little fan pit area, and she interviews Seth Rollins. She runs down the chamber members that have already qualified, and then asks him about his match next week and how he feels going into it. He says that he feels great. He runs down the fact that all eyes are on the WWE Championship for now, so whoever wins the chamber is going to probably go after the WWE Championship. As he's talking, saying that he's going to win and beat Finn, Finn ends up coming into the area and says that everybody is seeing the downfall of Seth Rollins, even himself, and lucky for him, the only thing standing between Finn and the chamber is a guy that's falling apart. Seth then says that they've done this before, and he knows that it'll steal the show, but Finn is still standing in Seth's way, so he's got to beat him. I guess that ends that, and then we just transition to backstage, but I don't know, something cut out my feed where somebody, I don't know who, some guy, maybe a guy I don't like to talk about, was stretching before a match with Rey Mysterio. Speaking of, Rey Mysterio is getting ready for that match coming up later on tonight too. Before that match happens, Pierce and AJ Styles are talking backstage, and Styles makes a match with Dom next week. As he's leaving, Braun Breaker comes in with a cowboy hat, and he confronts him. kind of popped me to see the cowboy hat. I ain't even gonna lie. After that, we get an American-made match against the War Raiders for the Tag Team Championships, where for some reason the Creed brothers get. Okay, hold on. Let me say my thing and then I'll backtrack. So for some reason, the Creed brothers used the titles to get themselves disqualified from this match that they wanted. I understand the thinking where it's like, oh, they're having this competitive match that's lasting too long, and as the match is going on, they're getting more fed up to the point where they just have to lose via DQ, so that way they'll get challenged again in like a no DQ match and then sneakily pull out the win or something to that degree. I understand the thinking, but also if you're having theoretically your one and only shot at the titles before Gable comes back and chews you all out, wouldn't it make sense to continue fighting? I don't know. I'm just a cynical wrestling fan. I don't know these things. After they beat them up, they pose with the titles to end it. Then we go backstage to the JD Clubhouse. Finn starts being sassy about Liv and how maybe Liv should start listening to his plan. Dom ends up defending her, and then Finn and Dom argue for a bit, with Finn saying that next week in Dom's match he won't be ringside for him. Dom suggests adding a new member to the Judgment Day, and Finn immediately shoots that down, saying that he will fix things around here. After that, shows Damage Control walking backstage. Rhea ends up running into them and saying that she doesn't feel like she needed to give Io a title shot, but on the Raw after the Elimination Chamber in 3 weeks, Io has earned a title shot against her. She walks away, and that's that. After that, Punk comes out for a promo where Punk talks up Mania and says that he's happy with Jey Uso winning, and when Punk lost at the Rumble, that means he's got to win at the Chamber and beat everybody in it. He talks about how he's going to beat everybody in it, specifically targeting John Cena for longer than he should have. He's really trying his hardest to build a match between him and John for this retirement tour. And then he says eventually he's going to win the Chamber and then go on to challenge Cody at Mania like he said he would last week. He starts running down people who have qualified, like I said, and then he talks about Finn and Seth next week. That doesn't matter who wins, he's going to whoop their ass too in order to win. Paul Brother then comes out. Punk said he didn't even know whose music was this, which popped the hell out of me. Honestly, I skipped anything that the Paul Brother said. I just caught the tail end of Punk's lines. He takes jabs towards him, and they were pretty funny lines. Thankfully, though, it doesn't matter what the Paul Brother says because he has his match against Ray, and honestly, I skipped through this not just because it's a Paul Brother match, but because his matches are so predictable. I knew he was going to cheat with the whole, bionic titanium arm or whatever, and then hit his finisher to win. As we're about to fade to black, the New Day come in and attack Ray, and the last thing you see as we fade to black is Michael Cole screaming, "What the hell are the New Day doing to Ray?" or "Why are they attacking him?" And that's all we see on this week. So that's a great way to tie into next week's episode. I can't wait to see next week's episode just because of that. I love segues like that. That's part of the reason why I think the Attitude Era got the hype that it got, because each episode segued into each other. So by all means, please continue this trend. Alright, thanks for listening, everybody. I appreciate you all. If and only if I have time way later on today, there may be some other reviews up. No promises on that. But for right now, all I can say is stick around on the channel if you want to see some Dynamite Wednesday or Thursday. Maybe see some other reviews that I've missed coming up throughout the week. I'll see you around, okay? Okay.